All right, so I know $17,000 sounds like a lot of money, but I think if you stick with me, you'll see there was actually a pretty good deal. And if you're in the same position as me, I think this is really a no-brainer. So a quick background, I've been driving a Model 3 for a year and a half now, love it, but when the Model Y started being shipped, I saw it out on the streets and I had a big decision to make. Loved the car, looked great, and I had to decide, should I keep my Model 3 or upgrade to the Model Y? So in this video, I'm gonna share the three big reasons why I upgraded from the 3 to the Y. And even though I do love the Model Y, there were actually a few surprises that frankly I don't really like that much, so I'll also let you know what those are too. Now, this wouldn't be a Tesla video if I didn't mention my referral code down below. So if you're interested in buying a Tesla, definitely use the link below and we'll both get a nice little bonus. So I'll put that down in the description below. If you're enjoying this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. Really appreciate it. So let's get into it. In 2018, I paid $57,500 for my Tesla Model 3. I got the long range, rear wheel drive, definitely recommend long range, pearl white paint, 19-inch sport wheels, which are obviously superior to the Aero wheels. Not a fan of those Aero wheels. And I got premium black interior because I have kids, and enhanced autopilot, which isn't actually available anymore. With all the fees and the sales tax and everything like that, it actually came out to a final sales price of $64,000 and $900. So $64,900, not a cheap car by any stretch. But I did get a $7,500 federal rebate credit. So I paid $57,400 in some states like California at the time. And I think even now you could get a $2,500 rebate. I won't count that for now, but basically I paid $57,400. If you can afford it, this is really an amazing car. And actually now, if you go on a Tesla's website and try to buy the exact same Model 3 that I purchased a year and a half ago, it's even cheaper. That rebate has come down, but Tesla has lowered the price. So it's a great deal if you're a single guy, you want the the speedy Model 3, definitely recommend it. But let's talk about the Model Y. Fast forward a year and a half. Okay, I've had the Model 3 for a year and a half. Still love the Model 3. It's really, this was the first new car I ever bought and I absolutely love it. But my wife and I had just had our second baby. So honestly, this is really kind of what got me thinking about upgrading. So why did I end up pulling the trigger on the Model Y? Well, the first thing is the Model Y looks great. For me, I always think kind of first and foremost, like how does the car look? Like the Model X, for example, everyone was telling me I should get the Model X. First of all, it's way more expensive, but also I think the Model X looks like a potato. I don't want to be, it's a great car. It's a Tesla still, but I think it looks like potato. I don't want to be driving around in a Model X. Like I said, we did have the baby though. And with the 3, and kind of obviously the Y is just a bigger version of the 3. And so I think that like from the front, especially the Y looks just like the 3. And I think the 3 is an amazing, like super sexy looking car. I will say when I first saw the 3, I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but it really grew on me. And now like every time I walk out and see a 3 or see a Y, especially in white with black tinted windows, I think that it's just like a beautiful car. The Model Y also has a little difference in that instead of the chrome all around, it actually has black trim. And so, white with black trim, black rims, and black tinted windows, I think is just like a really sexy car. So, that's really kind of the main reason, is just that it looks so great. The second kind of smaller one was the, I called this my 1B, was auto trunk. I had to throw this in there because it's not on the Model 3, and it's one of those convenience features that, luxury cars have had automatic trunks for like 15 years now. And it's just kind of ridiculous that they didn't put an auto trunk on the Model 3. So when the Model Y had the auto trunk, and it's obviously a much bigger trunk because it's a hatchback, I think that just kind of like was the icing on the cake for me. So I want to talk about the two main reasons though why I decided to upgrade from the Model 3 to the Model Y. And number one is more space. This is really the point of the Model Y more generally. They wanted to make the Model 3 but bigger basically. And while the Model 3 is surprisingly spacious for a sedan, we actually did just take a road trip from LA to Palm Springs with my newborn baby and 2.5-year-old and my wife. So, 4 of us in the car with a small amount of luggage in the Model 3. No golf clubs, but, fit everything else. And, it was a little tight, but it definitely fit. And so, the Model 3's got some space, surprisingly, because it's an electric car and obviously it has the frunk, but the Model Y has a lot more space. I think it's most noticeable in the back. You really just have way more legroom. It's like kind of ridiculous. My wife and I are both over 6 feet tall. I'm 6'3", she's 6 feet, 6'1", and in the three, I actually had to move my seat up slightly when there was a car seat behind me. So when my toddler was sitting back there facing forward, I actually had to move up a little bit. So I wasn't in like perfect, it was still comfortable, but it wasn't like my optimal, comfort level, I guess you would say. But in the Model Y, we can both be all the way back at normal legroom, comfort level. You can have 2 car seats in the back in really any configuration. So if you've got kids, you got to have the infant car seat facing backwards, and then you have to upgrade to the toddler car seat, which at first might be backwards, and then eventually you flip it to forward. So any configuration, 2 car seats back there, plenty of room. The square footage of the Model Y, though, I was surprised. It's actually about the same, and I didn't measure it, but I had my Model 3 next to my Model Y when I test drove, and I opened both the trunks, and the square footage, the footprint actually of both trunks looked identical, but the big difference in the Y is that they have the hatchback, and so you kind of have a lot more vertical room, so you could kind of, fit a lot more stuff in there because you have that extra space. So that's sort of, something to definitely, I think that you have that additional seat, seat room in the back, but you also have the much bigger trunk. And then one storage feature that I really liked was that the middle seat actually folds down. So you could slide in, for someone like me, a surfboard, golf clubs, or even a couple snowboards, all things that I actually did on my Model 3, but it was quite inconvenient. And now on the Model Y, you can literally just slide that all down the middle. So I'm sort of thinking now, if we do that Palm Springs road trip, or even if I have both my kids, I need to drop them off at daycare and I want to go surfing after, I just slide a surfboard right down the middle, and we can still have 4 people in the car. So that's super cool. It does have some additional extra storage space below the back trunk and a bigger front, but I don't think that's any reason to get too excited about. So that's sort of the number one reason. And then the other big reason for me is kind of comes down to the financial side of things, which I think a lot of you are probably wondering about. So I actually kind of looked at this. I thought of this, when I ran all the numbers, and, by trade, I actually, I used to be an aerospace engineer. So that was my first career before I started my online media business. And so I'm very analytical. I used to do a lot of spreadsheets. And so, of course, I had to crunch the numbers. And really, when it kind of all boiled down to it, I looked at this as sort of like a free upgrade. And here's why. So my Model Y, I ended up getting the long range, all-wheel drive, white paint, which was included, 20-inch wheels. Again, this is sort of a must, the black 20-inch wheels, I think is a must upgrade, especially against a white car. Black rims on a white car just looks great versus the, I think, 19-inch chrome wheels, which are also just honestly it seemed a little bit small for the Model Y since it's a bigger car. So definitely, I would almost say the 20-inch wheels are a must. And the car comes now with basic autopilot, which is really all you need, and that's $55,000. So pretty similar specs actually to my Model 3. So with all the fees and sales tax for the Model Y, and I was one of the first people to receive a Model Y here in Los Angeles, actually. I didn't see a single one on the streets until I got mine. Now I'm seeing them everywhere. Tesla, so like I said, it was $62,500 with the fees and sales tax and all that. Now, Tesla actually offered me $38,500 to trade in my Model 3, which I kind of thought was pretty high. But I ended up listing it and selling it to a private buyer through a site called tread.com. That's TRED. .com. I'll leave a link down below. I think I have an affiliate link for it where we each might get a little bonus if you use that. And I ended up selling it for $40,000 on Tread. So if you guys are curious about, because that's sort of the other component, right? If you're thinking about upgrading from a 3 to a Y, you got to do something with that car. I would love to be able to, sell it to a family member, or, maybe not give it to someone because it is an expensive car, but, give someone a sweet, good deal on it since I took such good care of my 3, but, just couldn't find anyone. So the next, best bang for your buck is a private seller. So if you're interested in the process about selling it on tread.com, leave a comment below. Tread is super cool though, and I kind of highly recommend you guys try it out because they actually list it on all the major car selling sites, and I think I only had to pay $19 up front and then $400 once the actual car sold. So very reasonable. I hate selling cars to private buyers since they're sort of, all so many tire kickers out there. But my first inquiry was from a very motivated buyer. We did FaceTime and I sort of showed her the car and everything. She drove up from San Diego to LA to check it out. So I sort of knew she was semi-committed unless there were any huge problems, which I knew there wouldn't be. And she said she found the car on Car Gurus and contacted me through Tread. So if you're selling a car, just kind of a quick aside, highly recommend you list it on Tread. Again, I'll leave my referral link down in the show notes so you and I will both get a nice little bonus. But if you remember, I bought the Model 3 for $57,400 after the federal rebate. So that's sort of what I look at. That's what I paid, and then I sold it for $40,000, right? So basically a $17,000 difference to keep the math simple. And what I look at is like I paid $17,000 for the privilege of driving a brand new Model 3 for 1.5 years. So just over $1,000 a month, which obviously isn't cheap to drive any car. You can go get a Honda Civic for a couple hundred or $300 a month, but a Tesla Model 3 is, in my mind, like 10 times better than Honda Civic or a comparable car. And I guess that's sort of what I ended up paying. But this really, when you look at it, it's not bad on a leasing perspective. I went on Tesla's website today, and they said to lease the same car, same car that I got today, when the car is now cheaper, would be $500 a month plus a down payment of $4,500. So let's take half of that down payment, right? Since I had my car for 18 months, so that's $2,250, and I had the car for 18 months times $500. That's $11,250, right? And remember, I paid $17,400 to upgrade. So it's really only, like if you think about it, like I just leased the car for a year and a half, and even that is sort of a good deal, right? Because normally you have to lease for 3 years. So if you shorten that time commitment, obviously you're gonna have to pay a little extra, but it's really only had to pay $6,000 extra to upgrade from a Model 3 to Model Y. And remember, I'm not upgrading for the same car. I'm getting a lot more for it, right? I'm getting that more space. I'm getting all of the looks and everything that I touched on that I liked, right? So I'm not. It's not like I'm trading apples for apples. I think I'm actually upgrading. So that's the nice thing too. But really, what made this such a good deal for me personally was that I got that rebate, that free $7,500 rebate from the federal government. So I think there's a lot more to the Model Y, but I want to keep this video focused on those that are currently sitting behind the wheel of a Model 3, those owners that are thinking about upgrading to the Y. So if you want a full review of the Model Y, I actually do recommend you check out Andy Sly's video. He's a great Tesla YouTuber. He's got one of the most comprehensive Model Y reviews out there. I'll leave a link to that down below in the description. You can go check that out. And he's got a couple other good, more in-depth and thorough videos on the Model Y. Now, before I sort of sign off here, I do want to mention, I did say that there were a few things just quickly that I didn't like about the Model Y. And number one is there's no enhanced autopilot. So I'm personally not going to pay for self-driving. I'm not going to pay $5,000 or $7,000 or whatever Elon is tweeting out about how much, what deal he's offering today for full self-driving for a service that, I think is going to take many, many years. If you guys are interested in my online media business, I cover the rideshare industry and have interviewed many of the top self-driving experts, and sort of when you talk to them, and, even if you've driven a Tesla with autopilot, you sort of see like it can't even 2-lane merge on a freeway here in Los Angeles. So I think that this feature, like full self-driving, is extremely far away, but it kind of sucks that you don't get, you have to pay now for, full self-driving, and that includes navigate on autopilot, auto lane changes while on autopilot, and auto parking. Though out of those three features, really only auto parking is the one that I find myself now in the Model Y, since I only have the basic autopilot. The only one I find myself missing is auto parking. Like I use navigate on autopilot here and there and auto lane changes, but, again, like it wasn't that great. So I don't feel like I'm really missing out anything there, but it would just be nice if you could pay for those features without having to pay for full self-driving, which I don't think I'm ever going to get on the Model Y. Another kind of little cheap thing that I think Tesla did that was a mistake was they did not include Homelink this time around on the Model Y. And I don't know what the reasons were, but now you have to pay an extra $300 and get it physically installed, which is really weird because on my Model 3, it was just really easy to set up Homelink, and it was super cool because I would pull into my driveway, the gate would open, the garage would open, and it was just like, ta-da! And when I came home every day, super cool. And when I'm backing out, everything opens automatically. I really just like, I love the like smart home, convenience features, and that's what Teslas are so great for. So I'm going to end up paying the $300 extra, but it's, it's just kind of cheap, right? If you're spending $60,000, $70,000 on a car, they should probably include that. Another thing that I've noticed, there's no cover for the hatchback, so you really can't leave expensive stuff back there. During quarantine, I'm playing a lot of golf right now because that's really all there is to do. And in my Model 3, I would just leave my clubs in the trunk. And now in the Model Y, I can't leave them in the trunk because it's exposed. There's no cover. And so I'm assuming that there will be some aftermarket solutions here. But again, it would be nice if Tesla, would have thought of this or provided an option. Or really, I think they should have included included something. A lot of other SUVs and cars will have some sort of cover just for this exact reason. And another thing, speaking of the hatchback, it's great for all that extra space, but it does actually hit my garage door. And so when I, open my garage door, it's a sort of roll-up door, like a lot of accordion style normal garage doors are these days. I just pull into my garage, open the hatchback. The first time I did it, boom, slammed into the garage door above me. So now I have to put, a microfiber cloth on top of it and sort of, ease it up every time. And then, it bumps into it softly and then comes down. So that's just sort of annoying. I mean, it would be nice if there was a setting to actually, raise, because I don't need it, like 8.5 feet tall. I only need it like 6 or 7 feet to be able to have full access to the trunk. So, the great thing about Tesla is they often add updates over the air over time. So hopefully this will be something that they change. And then the other thing, the last thing that I had an issue with when I took delivery of my Model Y that I didn't really notice until, I saw my friend Ben Sullins, who's another great Tesla YouTuber. He did a video on this, but there are a bunch of misalignment issues on my Model Y. And some of them are very small. And frankly, I don't think I would have even noticed them if I didn't see his video, but a couple I did notice right off the bat. And, it kind of sucks, right? When you go and pay $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 for a brand new car and you see, a couple little things. Like, you don't want to seem, like you're being super cheap, but like you just paid $60,000 for a car. Like, it should probably be in pretty pristine and perfect condition. So I did hear that you can contact Tesla and they'll fix it. So I'm not going to totally burn them on this yet, but there are a couple, very small, just misalignment issues. But the good news is it sounds like you can take it back to Tesla and they'll actually fix these issues there. They can fix these issues for you. So if you're really worried about that, I would definitely recommend just wait 2 or 3 months. It's like any new product or technology. Let them iron out the kinks, and then once they're mass producing and all good, you can go and get it. But obviously, if you're one of the first adopters or with any new technology, there's going to be issues. But those are sort of the positives and negatives. So the key things to think about, if you have a Model 3 and you're thinking about upgrading, do you need the extra space? If so, I'd say it's worth it. I think it's almost a no-brainer at that point. The second thing to consider is how much you paid for your Model 3. If you sort of got a good deal like me, if you got a federal rebate and you kind of need the extra space, again, I think this makes it a no-brainer, but you really do want to make sure you can get a good sales price on your Model 3. I got quotes all over the place from CarMax and Tesla and private, but just, I do recommend Tread, but, I'm sure that you can get other good offers elsewhere. And then frankly, just a last thing, if you're thinking about upgrading, is can you afford this car, right? I mean, cars are depreciating liabilities, and without getting on to, a whole personal finance rant, in my opinion, you never want to finance a liability, right? So if you can't afford to pay for these cars, then I don't think you should, and I don't think you should be upgrading. So I know there are a lot of Model 3 owners, probably ask themselves this very question. So hopefully I made the decision easier for you, right? If you need the space and you can afford it, this is a must upgrade. If you guys are interested in buying a Tesla and you want to use my referral link, please use the description down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I know it's a little bit long, but lots of good info. All right, stay safe out there.